Problem 9 from the homework 2.5 day 1. In each of these problems, our goal is going to be to write the equation of a transformed graph, which is a transformation of the parent function f of x equals x squared. Remember, the parent function f of x equals x squared is a parabola. It has a vertex at 0, 0. It opens upward, and some of the key points, we've graphed this a few times, would be 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4, etc. So I'm going to look at this first graph, and I'm going to look at the vertex. The vertex here is at 0, negative 1. The next point, normally I would go right 1 and up 1, which is what's happening in this graph. So the only transformation that I can see on part A, graph A, is that this has been shifted down 1. To write the equation of a graph, the graph of f of x equals x squared, that's shifted down 1, I simply have to subtract 1. So that would be the equation for graph A, y equals x squared minus 1. Graph B, let's look at the transformations here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the vertex. The vertex is at the point negative 1, 1, and I can see this is also reflected in the x-axis because it's opening downwards instead of upwards. So the transformations that I see here is this graph has been shifted left 1, it's been shifted up 1, and it's been reflected in the x-axis. So to write the equation for this graph, I'm going to write y equals, to shift a graph left 1, I replace x with x plus 1. To shift it up 1, I add 1 to the function. And to reflect it in the x-axis, I put a negative in front of where my parent function was. That changes really the sign of y to negative y, reflecting it in the x-axis. Letter C. Once again, we're going to look at the transformations. I'm going to identify the vertex first. The vertex is at the point 2, 6, which will tell me that this graph has been shifted right 2, up 6, and since it's opening downwards, it's also reflected in the x-axis, just like the previous graph was. So to write the equation for letter C, I'm going to say y equals, to shift a graph of x squared right 2, I replace x with x minus 2. Remember, if we want to go right 2, we have to subtract 2 from x. We do the inverse operation when we're changing things that affect x. Up 6, which means I add 6 to my function. Reflected in the x-axis, I put a negative in front of my function. Part D. This one is not reflected. Let's take a look at the vertex. Each one of these lines is actually 2 units. So the vertex is at the point 5, negative 3. So this graph has been shifted right 5 units and down 3 units. So to write the equation for this function, I would write y equals, to go right 5, I replace x with x minus 5 in my original function, which was x squared. To go down 3, I subtract 3.